Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. So I wanted to make this video a proposal to the Ummah called Ecumenical Reconciliation of Muslim Ideologies. The idea is actually for an academy of ecumenical reconciliation of Muslim ideologies, but let me talk a little bit about ecumenical reconciliation itself. So ecumenical reconciliation is an idea that exists in Christianity or modern contemporary Christianity, which is basically, Christians, whether they're Catholic or Protestant or Orthodox, or Oriental Orthodox, they tend to believe that, the church will be in a unity when Christ comes. And so this fractionation of the church needs an ecumenical reconciliation. And what they mean by ecumenical is that, in matters of theology and matters of Christology and matters of religious ideology and belief systems, it's not really easy for there to be reconciliation, right? It's not something you can be like, all right, we'll take this from you and this from you and just compromise. You can't do that with religion. You can't do that with theology. But the idea is to gradually find some sort of reconciliation that's possible. Now, with the Oriental Orthodox, they have this idea, or not an idea, but they're based upon mystical experience. And so they believe that the real mystery of God, the tanzih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can actually be articulated. And so that different articulations of theology might be emphasizing different aspects of ma'rifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's not so much about the articulated theology. But for the rest of the Christians, there is some need for theological reconciliation between each other. And there's like philosophical foundations that the ecumenalist they provide that gives people an impulse. And basically it outlines the nature of the dialogue that needs to happen between various fractions, the Protestants and the Catholics, the Oriental Orthodox with the Eastern Orthodox with the Oriental Orthodox, and the Protestants with the Oriental Orthodox. Like these are and what the way that needs to happen. Now, archetypally, in Islam, the Christian or the Nazarenes are the idealists, and the Yahud are the pragmatists, roughly archetypally speaking. And so when we talk about ecumenical reconciliation, this is mostly what the idealists of the Ummah need to engage in. These are the Maulanas, this is the Shia ulama, this is the the Sunni ulama, the people who are like living in Medina still, right? They're still living in like a kind of like an archetypal Medina. They're very idealistic. Their whole activity is in the mind. It's theology, it's Christology, it's just this type of. These are the people who need to engage in this. Now, I want to provide a philosophical foundation for Islamic ecumenicalism or Islamic ideological reconciliation between the Muslim Ummah. And it doesn't require that all the traditions are wiped out, right? It doesn't really require that there's no more traditional Ithna Ashariism, there's no longer any traditional Sunnism, there's no longer any traditional, um, you know, not Wahhabism, but Hanbalism. That's not what we're saying. But there can still be an ecumenical basis for dialogue and an ecumenical reconciliation process that's going on to return the identity of all Muslims back to Muslim Momin and in moments Mohsin, right? That's it. Like we don't want other identities. No Shia, no Sunni, no Riwayat. You can have Riwayat, but they can't be the foundation of identities, right? The identity is only Quranic. It's Muslim Momin. The Istalahat, Bani Adam is an identity. Like these identities that are given in the Quran are the only identities that a Muslim should have. That we shouldn't have other names and other identities. Okay, so the basis of an Islamic ecumenicalism is basically this: that from the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this may be a little controversial, but let me just dive into it, is that at the passing away of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was an opportunity that he was Mahi, and Allah had established Iqamatuddin through him and perfected the nur of his deen through him, and that nur could have continued and manifested upon the entire earth, right? But it was destiny that it not happen. But that riyasat that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam left in Medina, it was like a second Jannah. It was like a second garden. It was the establishment of the second garden almost, in that it was perfect adal and perfect rahmah upon the earth. That is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala established through Rahmatul Alameen Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If his Sahaba had been perfectly upon his way, those who succeeded him, then that would have continued. But there's something that happened, and the Shia and the Sunni will differ on this, and I have my own unique perspective. But there's something that happened after passing away of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we can't say immediately after, or everyone has their own perspective. But there's something that happened that caused like almost like the second khata of Adam al-Islam. Right, Adam al-Islam eating and then the gradual decline. So the same thing happened, that the life of the Prophet established something that expanded, and within the first 3 generations became the Muslim, what we know as the borders of the Muslim Ummah today, and the forefathers of the Muslim Ummah today. And then something happened immediately after his lifetime, which cascaded until we are at the point we are now, where we still have most of those lands, but the Ummah is suffering. Our Iman isn't that great. We're not very just. There is no Khalifa. There is no Deen really established, and we're not dominant, on the earth the way we're supposed to be. And so what is that happened? And basically what it is that the truth, different fragments of the ummah overemphasize and underemphasize different aspects of the truth. So the Sunnis, the early who became the Sunnis, the ones who were in the tradition of the 4 Khulafa, these people became overly pragmatic, starting with Hazrat Muawiyah, and it started with Hazrat Umar radiallahu appointing Muawiyah to be the governor of Sham, Hazrat Muawiyah. So it was the Sunnis became overly pragmatic, and then there was the 12 imams of the Shia, and the 12th Imam, the actual original Shia believed that the 12th Imam was Hazrat Jafar radiallahu. 50 years after Hazrat Jafar radiallahu, there's another person who came up with the Kafi and Asul Kafi books. He said that no, it's Imam Mehdi is the 12th Imam, and the Ithna Ashari, they changed their belief 50 years. The original Ithna Ashari believed something, just like the Nasara believed something, and 50 years later they had a Paul, or they had a personality who changed their belief to become kind of what it is today, the kind of almost unacceptably mythological type of beliefs that they have. That happened 50 years after the passing of the 12th Imam, or what the original Shia believed to be the 12th Imam, and then the person who wrote Asul Kafi is the one who changed their belief system. So those people, the Shia, they became overly idealistic, overly mythological, overly kind of like they demonize people and then they idealize people, and there's no ittidal. So they became overly idealistic. Now there's 2 antitheses. So within Sunnism, the antithesis to pragmatic order is Sufism. Sufi idealism is the antithesis to Sunni pragmatism. So Sunni, when you have Muawiyah, the main emphasis of religion is zahir and outward, and you have the need for lawyers, the people like fuqaha, the lawyers of Islam. You need lawyer, pragmatic type people who can take the religion and kind of play with it a little bit. And so that's what came in Sunnism. Fiqh became dominant, the law became dominant, like it is in the Yuhud and the other pragmatic kind of impulse. And because it became dominant, there was a need for an antithesis, which is Sufi idealism. So Sufi idealism became the antithesis. So whenever people got sick of the, of the kings, then you need the church to kind of, give them the opiates of the masses, like to to soothe them, to tranquilize them. Basically, you need the Sufis to be the come to the, come to the souk, and just, and not to souk, but come to the, what's it called? Uh, the Sufi Khana, whatever it is, and just kind of just listen to the dhikr and the naat and this and that, and just kind of be nidhal. So this, you need that to pacify people who are living in a pragmatic order. You need some sort of idealism, just like Christianity was that for the Roman Empire. The Sufis were that for the Islamic pragmatic Sunni Empire. Now Shiism was the other side of it, and until you had the 12 Imams, the true 12 Imams from Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu to Hazrat Jafar, the second Hazrat Jafar, what you had was true adal. They had the true deen. But what happened is after Hazrat Jafar, those same, that continuation become idealistic. And within the idealism, Asul-e-Kafi was the beginning of a slight pragmatism. Or not Asul-e-Kafi, but soon in Shiism, you see this, what is called Usuli Shia. So there's two, just like in Sunnism, you have the four madhab. In the same way, in Shiism, you have the Asuli Shia, and then you have the more traditional Shia. And the traditional Shia are the original, and the Asuli Shia have slowly gained power. And the Qawmi, this is why most Shia reject Qawm or Iran as their marja, because the Iranis are Sudi, which has always been a minority and a secondary kind of impulse within Shiism, and therefore they are not the marja of most of the Shia. The Shia are therefore mostly follow Imam Ayatollah Sistani in Iraq, who is more the traditional school, right? And there's very fundamental differences between the Asuli, but this Asuli was the pragmatic antithesis to Shia idealism. Because Shia idealism, and there's one idea that they're both, the idea of Imam Mehdi, this is very demonstrative of Sunni pragmatism and Shia idealism, is that in Shia idealism, they're kind of muntazir for Imam Mehdi, right? There's a lot of things they don't do until Imam Mehdi comes, right? And in Islam, in Sunni Islam, because it's more pragmatic, it's like, no, we have to make the struggle, and Imam Mehdi will come when he comes. Right? We have to make the struggle, and Imam Mehdi will come when he comes. But the relationship, the proper balance, is that we have to make an effort, but the effort will only be completed and perfected when Imam Mehdi comes. But we have to reach the point, we have to create the hierarchy that will be capstone by Imam Mehdi. We have to struggle for the thing that Imam Mehdi will come to perfect. So he will be the perfection of our efforts, but we still have to make our efforts. And there's a relationship between both the idealistic aspect and the pragmatic aspect of that kind of scenario, right? And so basically, what we're trying to say is that the basis of Islamic ecumenism, the reconciliation of Muslim ideologies, is that every sect of Islam that has baqa, right? Every sect of Islam that has baqa has an aspect of the truth which gives it wajud and gives it baqa. Right. So basically, there's people who claim to be Muslims, like the Ahmadis and the Qadiani. These people are not Muslim, right? They're not Muslim, and their claim that they're Muslim is punishable, even though Medina isn't established anywhere. So we should have some uh, atiyat in doing the had for that. But when Medina is established, we don't need to have atiyat. But Medina isn't established. But when it is established, there's no ihtiyat in had for what they do. But they're not Muslim. Anyways, but there is a range of Muslim, and I am very broad in the range of Muslims I accept. So it goes from, on the left, the extreme left of Shiaism is the Al-Khani Shia. I'm forgetting their name right now, the Ismaili. Those are the extreme left. The extreme right are the Salafi. ulama in Najd are kind of borderline between, ISIS is the outlying on that side, and so like ulama in Najd, which are the extreme Salafi ulama, they're kind of just right there on the right side, and so they're kind of the extreme. And in the middle on the Sunni side is maybe like the Brelvi or the Shafi'i of Yemen type of ulama. And then on the middle, like left side, is also like the Zaydi Yemenis, and then like the what's it called, the Ibadis of Oman are kind of like the third. They're in the, if it's a triangle, they're one point on the triangle with the Shia and the Sunni. So that's a huge spectrum, and each one of those sects which claim, like, we're Ithna Ashari, we're Shafi'i, we're this, we're that, like each one of those sects has baqa, that's been there from the beginning of the ummah until now, has an aspect of the haqq. They have some aspect of the haqq that they are emphasizing, and therefore they have baqa. But the problem is in holding on to that aspect, that shard, that broken off truth. um, they're overemphasizing it and de-emphasizing other hakikats, other aspects of the haqq, and they're de-emphasizing it because they're protecting the one they have in the face of the rest of the ummah, right? And so what we have to do is we have to start acknowledging the haqq that each segment of the ummah has that the rest of us have forgotten. We have to find it and we have to acknowledge it, that is haqq. But we also have to do islah of the way they're overemphasizing it, right? So we have to accept that and we have to do islah, but it's better, we should all practice acknowledging what haqq that the other parts of the ummah are emphasizing, what is the core haqq that is giving them baqa and wajud, what is that core that the rest of the ummah is not acknowledging, right? The Shia have some of that, Sunni have some of that, everyone has. Anyone that has baqa is within the ummah, cannot be said to be kuffar. Those people have this type of aspect of the truth, right? So that is the foundation of Islamic ecumenical reconciliation. That's the foundation of the ecumenical reconciliation of Muslim ideologies. And so my proposal to the Ummah is that we need to establish an academy in which we select from the whole spectrum, from extreme left to extreme right, one representative each, who is of the utmost intellectual and utmost intellectual caliber, and also of the utmost salimul fitra character, right? So salimul fitra, everyone, you can be salimul fitra from any one of the traditions, right? It doesn't mean only one tradition of people can be salimul fitra. There can be salimul fitra people from any one of these traditions. The fitra is in all of us, and the deen, no matter what tradition colors the way you understand the deen, because you care about it, will make your fitra mahfuz and salim, right? So we have to find one person who from each, that's representing each ideology, who believes in this ecumenical framework, right? They don't have to be like willing to lose their Shiaism or lose their Sunnism, but they have to believe in this ecumenical framework, and to form an academy where they're all muqim in one place, and they're all in this type of dialogue and this type of conversation, and that dialogue, conversation, their writings are made, their work toward reconciliation is made available to the ummah as a whole. So the basis of our hearts coming together is some level of ideological reconciliation and integration, and so that is something I believe we should do. So my proposal to the ummah is to help do that. I'm more than willing to help create that. I have locations and um, a specific ulama to represent each kind of ideology in mind, and all that type of stuff. I think it's an extremely important step for the ummah to take. It would definitely help with like the problems between Saudi Arabia and Iran, um, and think about it and contact me if you're interested in supporting it. I will talk to you soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.